Welcome to Being Extraordinary with Akasha Awakened. Here we awaken the Akash to the non-physical reality that stores ancient wisdom and magic for us all. This podcast is dedicated to the stories, knowledge, and the people who have found a way to tap into this knowledge and bring it into reality, fully allowing themselves to embrace our true and extraordinary nature, and hopefully inspiring you to do the same. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I'm here with Rachel from Records with Rachel, which she will be filling you all in about. So thank you for being here, Rachel. I've been excited for this one.
I'm excited too.
Me too. So this one is born out of, again, some amazing stories. Rachel and I have been kind of connected. How long would you say? 2 years?
2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years. And we connected through Akasha Awakened.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just immediately was like, this girl is so freaking talented. And I was like, we just ended up clicking. It was just like instant connection.
Yeah.
And we've kind of been, sharing that journey with one another since the beginning or whatever.
Yep.
And you've been going through some massive transformations and have some crazy stories about how the universe starts to really support you and guide you when you finally start choosing yourself and your gifts and your true destiny. And I've just been wanting to capture this one for a while because some of the stuff that's happened to you, it doesn't make any sense and it's pure magic. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. And I always say, like, I want to scream this shit from the rooftops because everybody needs to know this.
Yeah. So how did your journey kind of begin, would you say? And then some of the kind of interesting things that have happened since really sort of leaning into it.
Yeah, so I think I would start with I used to work in corporate America. Miserable, hated my job, didn't really connect with any of the people that I worked with. Bosses weren't the greatest. So I was miserable. When COVID happened, we got sent home and it became a little better for a little bit because you're home, you're in your own space, you don't have to deal with people. But then the misery crept back in. At that point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. However, I was still like in this mindset of I can't quit. I can't quit. But however, I did manifest getting fired for not becoming vaccinated.
Oh my God, perfect.
So I'm going to say I manifested that because after I was fired for not becoming vaccinated for the company, about 6 months later, they changed the policy back to where you no longer need to be vaccinated. So I'm like, I completely and totally manifested that shit because I knew I was too big of a scaredy cat to actually go out and say I quit. But I still knew I didn't want to be there and it wasn't the path that I needed to be on. So after I was fired for not becoming vaccinated, I just kind of like hung out for a little bit. Was not really too worried about where I was going to get finances. I did have a battle with unemployment that I did end up winning. Again, I think that the universe completely had my back on that as well. Yeah. Because a lot of people weren't getting unemployment because of that vaccination policy. So I think I manifested that as well. So I've received all the back pay. But in those months where I was battling with unemployment, like I was getting random checks from like my insurance company where I overpaid insurance. I was at a funeral for a friend's grandfather, and someone hit my car. They didn't want to go through their insurance company, so they gave me a check. The damage wasn't that bad, so I got money that way. I mean, it's random shit that if you just like wait, it comes one way or another somehow. It's been a long journey though. But I've completely trusted the process the entire time.
Exactly. The trusting part is so nerve-wracking. Like it's just, you're just so uncomfortable because we do not normally lean into that part of ourselves, and it's freaking scary. But I swear to God, if you just wait it out, and it's like we're really moving into our destiny, and our
Mm-hmm.
destiny is created by us before we incarnate, and it's not something we have to fulfill. It's just we have all these choices, all these options of who we can be in this life. And I think all of us, I can't guarantee this, but I think all of us, if you're listening to this podcast, probably want to hit some of those optimal outcomes. So when you freaking choose them, the universe is like really like lining it up for you so that things work out. Because when I became a record reader, like weird things like that happened to me too.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I quit my job and I had no idea about this policy, but I get this call and they're like, "Hey, Kayla, we realize you just quit your job. You have this bank account essentially that you need to decide what you're going to do with." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, your company did our like retirement funding or whatever, but it's in actually just a tax-free savings account, and you get to decide if you want to transfer it into another account or you want to cash out." And I was like, "How much is it?" And they're like just under 10 grand. It was like 9998 because it got locked
Right.
in. It got locked in at 10 grand. So like you can actually pull it out. And I was like, yeah, cash me the fuck out. And I just got this like more money than I had ever seen in my entire life in one
Mm-hmm.
lump sum because the universe was like, yes, this is what you're meant to do. And we want to confirm to you that you need to keep trucking that path. And here's this lovely buffer as you kind of put your life together as an Akashic reader.
I After this was all said and done, I sat back and I remembered times in my life where the universe tried to do this for me before, and I didn't
Mm.
have that trust. Like, I specifically remember two times where the universe has tried to do
Yeah,
this to
tell
me
us.
before, but I was so wrapped up in the you have to work for money. Just like even if you look at the older generations and how you work, you pay your bills, you take care of your family, and then you retire and die. Like that's what we
Hmm.
see.
Hmm.
Um, I see two times before this in my life where the universe was trying to give this to me years ago, and I wasn't ready to accept it. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, everything the way it happens is I probably needed to learn a couple of more things and get a little bit more bullshit out of the way
Hmm.
before I hit this point. But I think that once you finally do start to trust the process and surrender to the universe and realize the universe really is here to work for you,
Hmm.
um, that you can see times before where the universe has tried to do this for you.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, and there's even times like I think I don't want to say that earlier in my life when I caught a break with something that it was because the universe was like, you're supposed to be doing something else. But there's definitely like I think we can all, if we really looked back into the experiences we've had, pull out at least one or two experiences that shouldn't have logically checked out the way that they did, but they did. Like I lived in Colorado for a couple of years and I was just like at this miserable junction in my university career. And I was like, I cannot do another year in this town. And I was like, I'll do anything to get out of here. And I had this class that was like on the bottom floor of the university and I had to walk by the exchange program every single day. And one particularly depressing day, I walked into the exchange office and I was like, "How can I be an exchange student? Like, I want to leave this place." And they were like, "Actually, we have this like national program where," and I don't know what they mean by national because I did go to a different country, but I guess it was North
Mm-hmm.
America, so it counted. And so I got basically placed into Colorado, and it made no sense. You got to pay your fees to Canada, which were like a fraction of the price of what the university fees would have been in America. And I couldn't work because I wasn't an American citizen. So there's no way I should have logically been able to pay for my experiences in Colorado. But like I ended up getting the fattest student loan, like obviously it was a loan and I'm still paying that back, but fattest student loan known to man that particular year. And I don't know what the difference between that year and any other year was, but I had so much money. Plus, America is what the time at least was way cheaper than Canada. So, like, I just was loaded. And I had saved without knowing, I did all my hard classes in my first 3 years, and I did my fourth year in Colorado. So I was basically doing intro level classes in my fourth year with the most money. I don't even like remember going to school. Like I was there, but it
So
was so easy. I just
it was more for
traveled.
the experience.
Yeah.
You were there to experience, I think. Yeah.
And it's just like that logically makes like no sense, you know? And there's no reason any of that should have taken place. And there's been several times where you're like, I probably should have died there, but you don't die because that's not your destiny. And it's just crazy how the universe starts to dish it out when you really are ready to receive it.
Yeah. The two times before I wasn't ready,
Mm-hmm.
clearly, because I went back to, you know, being in the workforce and I need to get a job. I need to get a job. I need to get a job. I need to pay these bills. I need to, and I was in that fear mentality. But I seen where they gave me the opportunity if I wanted, the universe gave me the opportunity if I wanted it and I didn't take it. But I can't, I don't think too much about it because
No, because you're
I
here
just think of
now.
it as, yeah, I think of it as I needed to learn a couple more things, let go of a little bit more shit, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So,
Definitely. And then so I remember us chatting when you were, dealing with the unemployment and you were just like, there had been enough stress in your life that you were nervous about things.
mhm.
And like you had some weird signs that kind of appeared to you and you were like, oh shit, like this is impossible. I know I got to keep persevering. Can you remember what they were? I remember the one about the
Um,
vehicles, all the white cars or
oh,
something.
the
I
white
remember that one.
cars.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, so I was going to pick my partner up from work and I pulled into the parking lot and it's like 10:30 at night. The shopping center, he works in a restaurant that's in a shopping center. The shopping center is closed. But I pull in and I look around and I'm surrounded by all of these white vehicles. And I actually took a video of it. I think I sent you the video and
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
did.
what the fuck is happening? And in that moment, I literally looked at them as like, these are my angels that are surrounding me right now. Like, you're good. Like, you're good to go. Like, because there was a point where I was super nervous. Like, there's times where I feel like, girl, are you delusional? Should you be freaking out? And I've only had little freak out moments. And one of those, that night that I seen the cars, I was freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Um, and it was the day before the hearing for unemployment. And I pulled into that parking lot. I seen all of those white cars. And what was really funny is there was two darker color cars, but they were so far back that the white cars, like you really had to look for those darker cars. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, we don't even need to look at that. Like, this is it. These white cars are my confirmation that everything's going to be okay. And the next day, the employer never showed up to the hearing. So I don't know what the attorney had to only take what I said, and obviously I'm truthful, I'm honest, but they wasn't there to defend themselves and why they
Mm-hmm.
were fighting me on this unemployment, and that's essentially how I received the unemployment because they never showed up. But I knew the night
Crazy.
before. I knew the night before. I told everybody, like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to be freaking out about this. I'm gonna win this appeal, and I'm gonna be good. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what happened. There's been other times throughout the journey where I have specifically asked my spirit guides, like when I start freaking out, if you can just show me this one thing. Never told anybody what it is. If you can just show me this one thing, I promise you, like I'll get back to being aligned with the plan. And they've done that repeatedly too, like in random weird fucking ways. Like
Oh, goosebumps.
I'll, and I'm not even noticing that I'm freaking out, but as soon as I see the sign, I'm like, oh yeah, bitch, you're freaking out. Like calm down. And that's it's they are showing me repeatedly that they are there to support me and like they're all for this and like keep going and yeah, so whenever I freak out, I just call upon the universe to show me that I don't need to freak out.
That works for me too. Like honestly, sometimes you just need to like stop trying to solve and be superwoman and solving it on your own and
Mm-hmm.
just be like, "Hey universe, like I need some support right now," or "Okay spirit guides, I need some support right now." And honestly, like if you're facing the right direction, they show up for you. You just have to make the request because this is
Yes.
your life. You have to engage your free will. But I remember when I was like really misaligned and when I was not in the right path and I was freaking out, I would like beg the universe for a sign. And I would get it, but it was the sign that you have to get out of here. You should be freaking
Yeah.
out. You need to change
Yeah.
lanes. And I remember like before I had gotten into the space where I was, listening to my intuition, I never saw repeating numbers. I didn't feel connected to the universe. I was like, all that shit is hogwash. Like, I don't see it. But it was because I was vastly facing the wrong direction.
Yep.
So, what kind of
Same.
confirmation are your spirit guides going to give you when you are not where you're supposed to be? And I think that's the tricky thing with trying to, I don't want to say convince, but trying to show people that something else is possible. If you spent your whole life facing the wrong direction, yeah, nothing feels incredibly magic because you hit hang up after hang up. There's no magical signs because you're just not going the right way. But as soon as you like tilt your head a little bit, like, what
Yep.
else is there for me? Then it's like boom, 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 boom. Like, yes, yes, yes.
I've had people ask me, and it's been people that I've kind of been shocked at it because I guess I wasn't aware that they were as awake, so to say, as they were. But I've had people, one particular, he was like, what does it mean like when you see something, and then it like relates to something like synchronicities is what he was talking about. And I was like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, when you start to see those synchronicities, like whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you are that showing you that you're aligned, that you are noticing these synchronicities because you are aligned with what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah,
100%.
it's pretty fucking cool once you start, once you tilt your head a little bit, it's pretty cool.
It's so cool. And it's crazy. And every time I even hit another scary junction, like where I've made a big change, like I do notice, I don't want to call it a test necessarily, but I do think like the universe makes you wait. Like, are you for real, girl? Like, do you really want this? And it kind of makes you just like sit in that pressure system and you're like, oh my God, am I going to make it? But you have to practice trust because that's what we're here for. Am I worth it? If we got everything for free and everything was easy and handed to us, it would really mean nothing. I remember like I've used this example a million times, but in like high school, mommy and daddy would buy the rich kid a nice new brand new Audi and he begged the shit out of it. And in a couple of years it was totaled and they spent how much money on it? That person didn't work for it. It didn't mean anything for them. It doesn't have to be hard work, but you do have to like feel like you earned
Put
it
forth effort.
for it to put effort, for it to mean anything. So the universe does put you in that sort of tough spot sometimes and makes you feel uncomfortable, but it always ends up working out like better than you could imagine. And for me, when I made my transition, I had quit my kind of corporate job and I had went back to managing a restaurant and I was doing records on the side. And I remember being like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to like fully make the pull and only do records, but I'm well aware that I have to move, the universe responds to me. So at some point I'm going to have to jump. And same thing, COVID came along and the whole place shut down because everything was like completely closed for like 2 weeks. I was laid off. And I got so busy in that layoff time, like so busy. And then they were like, time to go back. And I was like, I'm not going to go back. And at the time, the government was handing out like extra money and stuff. And I didn't end up needing it for very long. But just that weird confirmation to be like, no, you don't go back. You don't do it. It was
like,
just like,
this is
boom,
it.
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. And I would think we were talking about, I wanted to share the butterfly story. So I always.
So I was going to say, what you were just talking about, I think I have come up with that is the digestion period.
Yes. Okay. So this is crazy because what happens is when I'm working with clients, like for some reason, one of the biggest symbolism that I ever receive is like the caterpillar going into the butterfly. And basically what I see from my end, and then Rachel has like this way better experience with the butterfly. So it's basically like you're a cute little caterpillar, you're like ebbing and flowing through life, and you're just like, you can only move, you're very restricted, you can only do so much. It's kind of slow. And we all want to be these like beautiful, expansive, free butterflies. But when this is just my like how I say it, and then Rachel just takes it home. So, and then this is just my little arbitrary understanding of how you go from a caterpillar to a butterfly. But like in the chrysalis, it has to really disassemble what it was and kind of like go through this mess and like shift and change its caliber, and then it
Mm-hmm.
comes out as this butterfly. So in the middle of it, it is a little bit messy, but it's worth it in the end. And so I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people when they're in that like death period and they're in the chrysalis, like, yeah, it feels sloppy now, but just like wait. And then
Mm-hmm.
Rachel's heard me say this because it's something that I use a lot. And then she comes at me because, was it your son? What was going on? Tell us what happened.
I was okay. So my son watches um interesting things about nature. We're watching this documentary, and it's about a caterpillar and its process of turning into a butterfly. And it's in like slow motion. And the way that I was taught that a caterpillar went into a butterfly was not what I seen on this documentary. Okay, it kind of freaked me the fuck out, but it sparked something in me. The caterpillar comes out of its egg. It eats its vessel that it came out of. So to me, it was like this caterpillar knows what its first meal is. It's the egg, and then the leaf that it's actually the egg is on is what it'll start to eat. Then it basically gets fat to get energy for its next stage of life. Um, it then pushes itself out of its vessel, its skin, its mouth. So the body comes out of the skin through the mouth. And
Which
I did
obviously
not, it requires, yeah,
a
go ahead.
lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Absolutely. A lot. Like the whole body came out of this caterpillar's mouth.
Ugh.
And I was like, holy shit, like that is not the way I remember learning it when I was a kid. Maybe they just don't show you that because it is kind of like it is pressure. It is like a mess, like dramatic. Like, and I was like, Braylon, like, did that? And he's like, yeah, mom, that's how they do. And then what happens is they in the cocoon completely digest themselves. And that's why I said that we're part of this right now, like in those times of messiness, in those times of where shit is looking rough, like I think that we are digesting everything that we thought we were, who we thought we were, to become who we really truly are. And
I love that.
I don't think any of that digestion energy is wasted. If you think about the digestive system, we digest food and then it releases as waste, and it's like we're digesting these things, these parts of ourselves that no longer serve us, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
release them as waste because it's not for our next stage in life.
Yeah, I agree. And like when you say that too, like I think immediately of when I don't really know. I think we're just kind of brainwashed as a society, which rightfully so, because when we're brainwashed and we don't know what the process is, of course, we're going to stay away from our own power and just keep staying in those
Mm-hmm.
jobs, keep staying in those experiences that don't serve us. But when you say the digestion, like I see people like they are digesting, but we don't understand that phase of life. To
Yeah.
leave one stage into another, you have to get rid of the shit that isn't serving you. But people hang on. They hang on, like the whole thing where we could have went back to our jobs and we could have given in and let our soul lose the battle
Mm-hmm.
and just cling on to those things, but that's like waste now. We need to just let it go, and letting go is so fucking hard. But you had mentioned something else. You're like, the caterpillar knew the whole fucking time it was going to become the
Yeah.
butterfly. It
Yeah. I
trusted the
think
whole process.
yep, we need to encompass more of the caterpillars. Like we need to embody the essence of a caterpillar because it comes here and it trusts the whole process. Like it knows when it comes here, and then it just keeps taking these actions. Like they come out, they eat the egg, they just eat. Then they push themselves out of their fucking mouth like that. I will not get over that because, like you said, the pressure, like
Mm-hmm.
that is ugly. That is ugly shit right there. That is, but they trust, they're leaving their skin, but
Mm-hmm.
they trust the whole process, knowing it, not really knowing, but knowing they're going to get to something better. And if
Mm-hmm.
we think about butterflies, like they're admired. People get
Mm-hmm.
tattoos of butterflies. They, you
When
know,
I see a butterfly, I'm just like, oh my
there's
God.
an
And I've seen
emotional
butterflies since I was,
connection.
yes.
There's like an emotional connection. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, this this butterfly didn't do shit but trust the process in order to get there.
Exactly.
Like it didn't do
Exactly.
anything. It did what it was. It just kept taking its action. It
Yeah.
digested itself and became the butterfly.
Ah,
It made that
exactly.
transition.
And like it just immediately when you say that, I'm just like, we've forgotten our true nature. We've forgotten that we're always in this process of
Mm-hmm.
evolution. And
Yes.
then, when we think about that pressure system too that happens, it's like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's same for you, but when I finally decided to change, it was because I was under so much pressure and I was like, there has to be fucking more than this.
Yeah.
At the time I was 27 years old and I had accomplished the goals that I had for myself, and they weren't like lofty goals. I had pretty humble goals, but I'd accomplished, I went to university, I got the job that was helping other people. It was under the government. If childhood Kayla would have been told that when she was 25 years old, that would have been her job, she would have been so fucking proud. But I was in it and I was miserable. So the pressure just compounded, compounded, compounded before you're just like, ah, like there
Yeah.
has to be something. And for me, I almost became like desperate for answers. But voila, like look at where we are now because we couldn't take the pressure, right? And would you say it was kind of the same for you?
Absolutely. I think I feel like the evolution is going to happen anyways, and the more that you resist it and the more that you fight against it, that's what creates a lot of the pressure. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're finally like, okay, because another thing with this butterfly, a caterpillar butterfly analogy, like the butterfly does go through like a complete metamorphosis. So that's what we need. That's really, I think, what we need to do. Like we start this life as a version of ourselves, but I think we do have to go through this like complete metamorphosis and end it in a completely different form, a completely
Mm-hmm.
different person, a completely different version of ourselves. Like I think that is the mission that a lot of us come here for. Obviously, is to learn things, experience things. So
Mm-hmm.
if we're not if we're resisting like change, if we're resisting moving forward, we're not doing what I
Yeah.
think we came here to do.
And the resistance like creates more pressure.
Yeah.
Like it just gets
Yes.
worse and worse and worse.
Yes.
And when you were speaking, like, I was kind of think like, well, why was I able to detach? Why was I able to really let go? And like at some point, what you thought for me, what I thought I wanted wasn't giving me any sort of value anymore. And I mean, I was so misaligned. I didn't really have money, but on paper I should have. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have money. I was exhausted, so I wasn't having fun. I was I was literally fried. Like I would wake up and like I would be grumpy and like yell at my partner and like I wasn't functioning till like 2 p.m. in the afternoon on the weekend. And I was late for work because I was just fried. And you're like, okay, well, having like this I don't want to say reputation, but having a good job, having gone through university, getting a paycheck, like isn't working. At some point, you
Right.
have to detach and be like, all I fucking have in this life is a little bit of time to accumulate actually good experiences.
Yes.
And I was willing, like maybe it was, I mean, very reckless of me, maybe, but it's obviously working out so far, so we're good. But I was just like, I would rather just see what happens if I choose something that I enjoy more and create more good experiences or am more like soul happy with what I'm doing and maybe fail. But I would rather
Mm-hmm.
know and have had that chapter in my life than spend it just trying to survive over here. Like, because really, if a caterpillar, I don't think it's even possible for a caterpillar to like resist becoming a butterfly, but let's say it did. So it spends its little season of life, which is summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It spends its
Mm-hmm.
little season of life doing everything the fucking hard way. It has to crawl on the
Yep.
ground, it has to scour
Yep.
for food, and then boom, you die. And you're like, shit, I never got to experience that freedom.
Right.
Like, I swear you're bang on the money. Like, we didn't come here to do things that way. And we just
No.
happen to be I don't really know what happens and how we get here to a science, but we happen to, it's free will. If whether you were pressured to come back, you had karma, or you just straight up volunteered, at the end of the day, you signed and said, yes, I will be in this incarnation. I just have a hard fucking time believing that any person would just like not want to see what it's like over there, especially not anyone who's attracted to this podcast anyway, right? I mean, maybe some people love the caterpillar life, and that's fucking great for them because caterpillars are cute too. But it's like, it's a process. It's not easy all the time.
And I think that if we allow the transformation, if we allow the process, that, like, I did some research on this whole butterfly thing. So when the butterfly becomes a butterfly, it has to go through the complete metamorphosis, and that transformation requires a significant amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But that complete metamorphosis gives the butterfly a greater chance of survival. So there is a way that they can resist and not complete that, but then they're not going to survive. Right. So if you think about that, if we resist and we keep doing the same shit that we've always been doing, it's not, we might not die, but like, we're not going to live like that life that we see for ourselves.
Yeah. I see like so much symbolism in that. I see like, we pressure builds, but instead of choosing to evolve, it actually makes us sick, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If we just constantly resist it. And then, that meant, I'm like, honest to God, like, I swear I had a really like rough intro into 2022, and it's taken me like almost the whole year and it was so much pressure. And at the time, like when you're in the thick of it, as Rachel said, you're just like, am I going to die here? Like, is this transformation? Is this actually me dying? They're like, I don't know. But the immense amount of pressure that was on me, just even this year alone, not even when I chose this path, but this year alone, it did. I was like, I've got to figure this out. Like, you're kind of like, I've got to make sense. And I've explored depths of who I am that I never would have explored before without that pressure. And I'm pretty sure it's like leading to something that I can't even understand at this point. And sometimes we do just have to like detach and be like, what is my path, and see where things take us, because that process isn't like logical. Like becoming like what you just described, even with the caterpillar, you're like, I would have never pegged that as the process.
No, it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
It's not a glamorous process.
No.
Okay. We look at butterflies and we're like, oh my God, they're so pretty. And like, people plant flowers for them to come and fly around and they're adored. And it's like, that whole process to become the butterfly was not glamorous. It was pretty fucking ugly. Like, especially in slow motion. Like, it was
oh my God,
pretty ugly.
I feel like I have to like YouTube this later.
You would please do, because it is, I mean, it's very fascinating, but the whole time my mouth is hung open like, is this really what happens? And then obviously I'm starting to become downloaded with all of these things like, listen, look, like, this is it. This is what you need to do and everyone else needs to do, like digest yourself. And that was the main part that stuck out to me, is that they digested themselves with full trust that they were going to become like this more beautiful creature.
Oh, that's so profound right now. Like, even though you've said this to me, like hearing it back, I'm like, fuck, that's profound, because truly in both of those big transformation moments that I've experienced in my life, that I was aware enough to have processed, like, that's exactly what you do. You have to like almost pick yourself apart, in not a destructive way necessarily, but it becomes kind of destructive because you have to throw some of that shit away. We're like, does this fucking belief really serve me? Is this really how I want to spend my entire life? Like, you really have to dive deep. And I think people are so fucking afraid of themselves that they skip that part. And I mean, I'm telling you, no matter if you were the worst person in your life or past lives, you're good. Like, at the fundamental baseline, you're good. And I once heard a quote, and it was like, people are taught to believe in this society that we're bad. We're inherently bad. We have wars, we steal, we lie, we cheat. And they were like, the answer was like, if humanity was actually bad, how come the first reaction of everyone in a burning building is to run in? like
No,
your kid or
yeah.
your dog is in there, and people just, they don't give a fuck for their own well-being. They're like, holy
Well,
shit,
and
something
complete
I love is in
strangers.
there.
Sometimes complete
Strangers.
strangers run into fires.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you say that, I think about my dad. So I really feel like with him, when you said that people are scared of their self, like I think that that happens more often.
Hmm.
Um, and then that's when, because if you look at my dad and who he was an abusive husband. He was in and out of jail. He was an addict of all kinds, an alcoholic. But I think that if he would have been able to go into that like digestion process with
Hmm.
himself, then it could have been different. But he was one to never like hold responsibility or accountability. Or so if you're like this person that is never wanting to hold yourself accountable or responsible, or like you said,
Hmm.
just look at the shitty parts of yourself,
Hmm.
um you're gonna be stuck in that pressure cooker to the point where we might, like I said, we might not die, but we're not going to complete the transformation. But we're going to run to these things like
Hmm.
drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever could
Hmm.
be real, fucked up for us.
To
We're going to
relieve
run to those things
the
to
pressure,
relieve the
right?
pressure, but it never really relieves,
No.
you know
And like
it's
stories
always
like
still
that,
there.
yeah, and stories like that, like it's like we're so afraid to see ourselves, but at the bottom of those stories, it's just somebody who's been really hurt and doesn't
Yeah.
know how to heal themselves. So, and they
Hmm.
just, like behind all anger is actually like grief usually. And it's like that's usually what you find at the bottom of your pit is some sort of like betrayal that sometimes we can't even remember because it was probably started, like you would have had it mirrored in your childhood, but it could have
Hmm.
started 10 lifetimes ago, right? We don't know where it comes from, but I swear when you look within, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
Some people are scared to death of it though, and I think
Oh,
that,
for sure.
like when you said about the scared of looking at yourself, my dad like immediately popped in, like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was definitely scared to look at himself. And I think there's a lot of people that are scared to look at
Yeah.
themselves, because who wants to look, it's not pretty. Like, who wants to do that?
Yeah,
Who
that
wants to fucking
non,
digest themselves? Who
honestly, when
wants
you
to
say,
completely take their vessel out of their skin? Like, who wants to do that?
and it's really not glamorous, and because we're conditioned as a species to prefer comfort, or I don't even know if that's true. Like I think partly it is, but I also think we're just conditioned through the media and stuff that it should be breezy and we should travel and we should have a nice home and we should be
Hmm.
married to handsome people, or we this, that, and the other,
Hmm.
and you're just like, oh, that's what I want. But like we all know that half those people aren't really happy. Like I don't know if it's really what we want. I think we like a little bit of adventure. We're just confused. And you know, it's just such a shame that we're so kind of like blindsided or hidden from our true nature, and that
Hmm.
that we don't. And I think also like society set people up that they're so freaking busy that they don't have that time to look. Like I think about, I was busy and I was a single, I had no kids person.
Yeah.
And I mean, what happens when you have kids in sports and, after school programming, and, you're working shifts with your partner and like trying to keep a household alive? Like I totally get that there's not a lot of time to be like, who am I and what am I supposed to be with this life? And then when you have responsibility like that, it's even scarier to take a chance. But you have children, like you did it.
Uh-huh. I
You're
was
doing
going to say
it.
that was the, I think that my children were part of the pressure for me to want to transform and
Mm,
evolve. And not only because, like I was saying, with when we look at our parents or grandparents, like a lot of these people, like my grandparents, worked, and like at the end of their life, they really still didn't have nothing to show for it. We're not made of money. Like I didn't
exactly.
inherit a whole bunch of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for my kids, the pressure was like, I gotta stop this for them. Like I gotta show them that you don't need to listen to what society is telling you to be successful.
Hmm.
Like you define what success is.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the younger generation, they think success is money. And
Hmm.
it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're successful. However, like if we do make that transformation and we are starting to use our gifts, like I think money comes.
Hmm.
And I think that you can have everything that you've ever dreamed of.
Yeah.
So with my kids, I just need to break that cycle of I have to break my back
Yeah.
to make this money to pay bills. Like you need to experience life. Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't come here to work 40 plus hours a week, if not, more. Because I feel
Yeah.
like some people literally put in like 80 hours a week and I don't know how they do it. But we
Oof.
didn't come here to do that, to still not have money to pay our bills.
Yeah. And it's
Like
crazy,
that's
like
not life.
exactly. And I mean, as somebody who, again, you said you worked in corporate America, I know that you know people that still do that. And I know people that have good paying jobs and should be loaded and having the best fucking life possible. But when you are following a path that is so dishonoring to who you are, it still doesn't work out. I literally have a friend, she's kind of like on the outskirts. She's actually my friend's sister, but she's a nurse practitioner and she's worked for the coroner. She has like a crazy high paying job in this particular town. Partner, same thing. Like they're basically like, they're very high up and they do have a lot of money, but at the end of the day, I think there's still people that have to be conscious about money because it's not necessarily in alignment to work that hard. And it's just crazy because like, yeah, I made decent money on paper, but I had less of it then than I do now when I make less on paper. Does that make sense?
No, it does. So recently, like I'm just starting my business, so it's like financially, I'm not the greatest right now financially. I have support, but when I talk to my friends that have these jobs, like, because there's been times where I was like, maybe I should just get like a part time, but like I swear every time the thought comes in, a friend will call and be like, and like start bitching about their job. And then the next thing you know, they're talking about how they don't have money right now. And it's like, well, why would I go get a job and be miserable when I have money when I can be happy and actually experiencing life and
Mm-hmm.
still not have money? Like either way, if we're all just not having money right now, I'd rather do it in a happy way, like experiencing life
Exactly.
than being
Exactly.
miserable. And it's every time I like get on Indeed or like one of the job sites, like looking for jobs, I will literally get a call that evening from one of my friends, and they're bitching about their job. Then they're bitching that like they don't understand where their money's going, and it puts me back into reality of like, well, why the hell would I go get this job that I don't want and be miserable and
Exactly.
still not be able to pay bills on time? Because these people make good ass money
Yeah.
miserable and can't pay their bills. Like I'd rather, I mean, to be blunt, I'd rather struggle to pay my bills and be happy.
Yeah.
You know what I
Totally.
mean?
Yep.
And that's what
And
we were
like,
talking about before about being delusional.
yes. Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, are you delusional? And I'm not. Like I just know that it's going to be okay because I'm trusting that process.
Yeah.
Like I know that like I have finally after a very long time realized that the universe is going to show up for me.
Yeah.
Like the universe wants to work for me.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly. Especially when like we're like when we're moving into alignment. So I think sometimes I do see people being like, I'm just gonna like not do anything and sit at home and just waste away and the universe will provide for me. And sometimes the universe still does. But it's
Mm,
more about giving you like the buffer so that you can become who you're
yes.
supposed to be. So as long as you're like trying to do that soul searching, like, well, what are my gifts and who do I want to be in this life and how do I want to show up? Because I really think, contrary to popular belief, people are like, I just want to sit at home and do nothing. Yeah, for maybe like a couple of months, but you're gonna be fucking bored. So what do
You
you
get
have to
bored.
contribute
Mm-hmm.
after you recover your energy and move forward? Like we want to contribute. We want to share our gifts. We want to inspire others. Like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're on that journey of discovery, like I'm telling you, the universe looks out. And yeah, like when I had my job, I would have like they'd be like, oh, happy hour on Friday, let's go out for a beer. And I would literally have like 3 cents in my bank account. And I'm not joking when I say 3 cents. Like my mom would be like,
Right.
can you pick up milk and bring it out to the farm? And I'd be like, Mom, I have 250. That's not enough for milk. Like,
Right.
like I
We've all
seriously,
been there.
Yeah, I was seriously that broke at the end
Yeah.
of my career. Like career.
Hmm.
That's what I was doing for
And how
work.
many years did you work? Like,
I so
for
many.
what?
Exactly. Not to mention like the degree that I had gotten and
Right.
then still didn't help me make more money, right? So had no money. And then it's like I mean, like I can go for happy hour now if I wanted to. If my mom's like, bring milk to the
Hmm.
farm, I'd be like, okay, yeah, no problem. Like it doesn't make sense. And I don't
It
know how
doesn't.
to tell people that you cannot like properly plan for what it looks like to detach from your old misaligned life and just allow yourself to be the butterfly. It doesn't make any sense. It really
Well, and
doesn't.
I think the process is going to look different for everybody,
Yeah,
as well, depending, like not everybody wants to be their own business owner, but
for sure.
everybody there might be people that are really in jobs that are totally misaligned for what
Mhm.
their gifts can give to the world. So
Yeah.
maybe just even a career change, or like
Or
it's
even
gonna
just
it's
like,
gonna look different for everybody
yeah,
because
or taking
everybody's
your power
carrying.
back in your family. I have a friend right now who's
Yeah.
just like, I'm always the strong one in my family. Everyone's always falling apart, and I always have to like
Hmm.
rise, and it's exhausting. And like, it can be very diverse for what needs to be shifted, but all of it is just, I think the main message is like setting yourself free from whatever those things are that keep you grounded and stuck, and like the pressure that builds because you're meant to metamorph. Like,
Yeah, we're definitely all digesting different shit, but at the end of the day, we're digesting it to get it out of us to
yeah,
go. We don't need
exactly.
you.
And I think that that's true for every generation and every person.
Hmm.
But I also believe that at this particular time junction, it's times 10 for people. Like, I guarantee if you are existing in this reality, you did not come here for a boring and simple life. Even if that's what you
No.
think you want, there's no way you would have ended up on this crazy ass timeline if that's what you actually were doing. So I think the pressure is really immense for people right now, especially because
Yeah.
I think there's like the energies that are even like astrological right now. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
Hmm.
Like you really came here to be a bit more free and happy, but you have to choose it.
You do have to. You have to choose it,
Hmm.
because if you continue to choose the not free and happy, then that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah,
Sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, I tell my kids all the time, like, because I mean they're 11 and 13, and they talk about like getting older and getting jobs, and I'm like, please do something you love. Like, I
Mhm.
promise you, I will not allow. I don't care what I got to do. I will not allow my kids to stay in a job that is making them miserable. Like, that is, I think it's because it's where I came from. Like,
Mhm.
that is like a mission. Like, I do not want people to be miserable making money. You don't have to be miserable making money, like. So I think that we're probably like you said, we didn't come here to be miserable and make money. Like,
Mhm.
that's not what we came here for.
No,
Period. There's so much more to life.
that's exactly, yeah, so true. And honestly, like when you talk about the ancestors and your parents, like
Hmm.
exactly the same. Like I came from like two farming backgrounds, and not like bougie farm. Like I mean like you're trying to survive farming.
Yeah,
And they worked so hard, like skin to the bone, all day, every day. And
breaking
then
their back.
yeah, and then my parents in some way or another kind of did the same. And again, yeah, like really it doesn't pay off later. Like we live in the society that says, oh, you work hard for the years when your body you're
Hmm.
ready and able, but you
Yep.
basically destroy your body, accumulate all this pressure, don't
So you
evolve. Yeah,
can't
and
actually enjoy the years that you have that you are
yes.
retired.
Exactly. And I think like one of the things, and it's like when you look back at your life, you're like, I think everything was kind of divine. But if you're someone listening and you're like, my life doesn't feel divine, it doesn't really feel or seem divine until you're at a different level to see it better. I would have said the
Yeah.
same thing about myself and my life if I was still in the thick of it, right? So my grandma worked her ass off and had a terrible life, like fucking terrible farming life. I don't even know what possessed that woman to keep staying alive sometimes. Like to me, it was awful. but they had religion, so like suicide was really
Yeah.
bad, right?
Yeah.
So, but if I was her, I would have thought about that shit every day, hearing the shit that she went through. And she went back to school, got this job, busted her fucking ass raising all these kids, going back to school, doing, I think she worked in like home care. And she was like buying books and movies and planning trips for when she retired. She accumulated all this money and all this wealth. And I shit you not, she died like on the day of her retirement.
I
Tomorrow
say,
doesn't come.
nope, I say that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, like it's good to have a little savings account and stuff like that, but like I'm telling you, like since I've not been employed by an employer, I have experienced so much more life.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm like choosing experiences. I'm not waiting. I'm not gonna wait till
Yeah.
I'm 65. Who knows if we're gonna make it to 65? I'm not waiting.
You
Like
know,
it's the whole. I'm not
that's
doing it.
so true. Like when I was at my job, I never traveled. Like I wanted to
You
travel.
never
It was
took
like,
off.
yeah, I couldn't get time
Yep.
off. I when I did, I didn't have the money. And I've traveled more
Hmm.
and more freely without any worries
Hmm.
since being self-employed. And I mean, you just took a trip, like you've taken trips, like it fucking doesn't make sense, man. And I'm telling you.
That's another thing. I went to Salem, Massachusetts. I planned that trip before I even knew if I was gonna have money for the trip.
Exactly.
But
That's how it
I was
works,
like,
I swear.
yep, I planned it. And guess what? Money came. And I did not feel restricted any way, shape, or form when I went on that trip.
Yep.
Like, and I wasn't going to restrict myself. I don't know if I'm gonna come back. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come back anytime. So I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna experience it. And I'm gonna enjoy it. And
Yep.
I really do live life like that every day. Like if
Miraculous.
and then it just works out, you
It
know?
does. My first, like, because I traveled a little bit while I was in university and like right out of university, because I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I had like, was living at my parents' house, right? So, no, I had traveled a little bit then, but I want to try, I want to see this whole world. Like, this is what I'm trying to manifest. And my first actual trip as an adult came when I quit my job. You know, I said to
Mm-hmm.
my spirit guides, I was like, I don't deserve not to experience in this life the things that I want. Earth is beautiful. And from what I know, it's one of the most beautiful places you can go. So if we
Mm-hmm.
came here, I'm telling y'all, we wanted to see it. So I'm like, I deserve this. And I said to my guides, I was like, I don't know how it's going to work out. I realized I just quit my job, but like, fuck, I'm going somewhere warm with my partner by the end of by March of whatever year that was. I think it was 2020. It was like right before COVID. And that's when I got that fucking call with the
Mm-hmm.
$10,000 to cash out. I was like, boom, there it is.
And
And
see,
like,
you could have made a decision at that point when you got that $10,000. Like, I got to hoard this now
yeah.
because I don't know when the next lump is coming. And I think that we both chose not to hoard that
Yep.
money. And I feel like that like propelled us like, oh, okay. So she really does want to experience life this way. This
Yeah,
is really what she
exactly.
wants.
Exactly. And like I think that's an important point to make because when I was miserable at my job, I would look at people who were really doing it and I would make up excuses why it was them, not me. You know, I'd
Yeah.
say, well, they probably have a bunch of money that they're coasting off of, or their husband
Yeah.
pays for everything, or their parents are rich, or, you know, like they had this big fat savings account that they could quit their job. Or sometimes I'll, like I would have said, be like, well, maybe they're doing their life purpose or whatever, but I bet you they have no money to have any fun. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not true. I didn't come from money. Doesn't sound like you came from money.
I definitely did not.
My partner isn't a millionaire. Like, and I've,
Right.
you know, like, and while we've done this, I've experienced more life. You know, it's like when your friends call from corporate America being
Yeah.
like, I don't have any money. It's not like you're living in a cardboard box and they have a mansion and we're like, see, it's worth it. We just decreased our dreams. Like, no, my dreams have never been bigger and they've never been
And
more
what's
attainable, to be
crazy
honest.
is when the friends call, they're like, "We're so proud of you. Like, we are so proud." Like, and they tell me, like, "I'm proud of you because here we are, miserable in these jobs, not living life, not experiencing life, don't have any money, and like here you are, you don't have money either, but you're experiencing life, and you're not worried about it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not stressed out." And like they do say, "I'm so proud of you," but it's like, come on, y'all, what are you guys waiting for? You know?
Yeah.
but everybody has their own process.
Yeah, exactly. And people, like we said earlier, people have different things they need to digest
Yeah.
about themselves. Like it's true, not
Hmm.
everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but I think a lot of people wouldn't mind like it's a little bit stressful. It can be because you're like, oh fuck,
Hmm.
like it's really all me all the time. But I mean, I think I think people do wish they had more freedom, however that looks. Maybe they're just shifting the
Hmm.
type of work that they do, the place that they work,
Right.
the hours that they work, but there's always something. And that, I don't know, the pressure always seems to be the sign that it's time to evolve. So
Yeah.
either it's the pressure because like you need to get out of that place, it's not for you, the pressure compounds, like please evolve, or like I was 3 years into my business, hit this year and went through my own pressure system. But like
Hmm.
I can only dream of like what that's going to lead me to as time passes,
Hmm.
right? Like it's always this evolution, and I am pretty fucking excited to see if we're aware of that radar almost like, okay, I'm feeling pressure. I shouldn't be feeling pressure. So I'm either choosing something wrong and something
Yep.
needs to break, or it's time for me to just level up. Like
Completely agree.
you can
Completely agree.
almost like
I
embrace it.
remember when I was working from I remember I was working from home. I was like scrolling through people's stories on Instagram, and I seen this um one entrepreneur, and they were like having a sushi and Harry Potter day. And I remember writing that person and saying, "Ah, like I want that. Like I wish I could have that." And I remember them saying, "Just wait a year, just wait a year." And I almost think that that's when my pressure started over something so silly as sushi and Harry Potter, but it was like the freedom. It was like a Tuesday, like at lunchtime, and I'm like sitting here miserable, and they're watching Harry Potter eating sushi, and it was like in November, which is like because you could see their Christmas decorations, and it was like, I want that,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's when my pressure started. Like, well, if you want it, then you gotta evolve a little bit,
Yep.
and that's when I started digesting. And I think that you go through multiple digestion periods, like
Yeah.
every time you level up, every time you need to evolve, like you said,
Yes.
either when you start to feel that pressure and you start getting those thoughts of what's next. Yeah, I think
That's so
that's
true. And I feel like let's say you hit a level and you were perfectly satisfied and like feeling fulfilled with whatever you had going on. I think then, if you're in alignment and you're not feeling pressure and things are good, then you're good. You don't have to evolve. But I think at some point we're like, okay, I've checked. It's
mm-hmm.
like a video game sometimes. Okay, I conquered level 12.
Level. Yep.
Let's see what level 13 is. And then that's when the pressure starts to build because they're like, okay, you want more? Let's do this.
Yep. It's like
Yeah,
a continuous process. Like
yeah.
I don't think it ever stops. I don't think
No,
because
unless you
like
just like
healing
love
never
level
stops.
12,
Right,
you
right,
feel great
right.
with whatever you have at level 12. You might be able to just stick around there for the rest of your life. But I think people get bored, and I don't think many people would just be like happy with that. We're always wanting more. Oh, so interesting. Did you have anything else you wanted to share about your journey before I pass it over to you to talk about how people can get in touch with you if they want to experience your magic? Okay. All right. Well, Rachel can explain sort of her lovely gifts, and you have your business up and running, and how people can kind of get in touch with you.
All right. Yeah. So I am Records with Rachel. I do have an Instagram page at Records with Rachel. So if you want to follow me there, if you have any questions about me or what I do, I also have Rachel Records with Rachel at gmail.com. That's my email address.
Sweet. And I could not recommend Rachel enough. Like even before her journey was like real like to the level it is now, I was like, yeah, you should just do a session for me. And I was
Hmm.
fucking blown away because like how I do it and how she does it is different. And I remember being like, holy fuck, how did you just summarize feelings that I couldn't even name or experiences that I couldn't even name? And she just like gave it a name and she's like, I think this is kind of like where it's coming from. And I was like, the fuck? Like I've spent a lot of time digesting myself and I couldn't even name that shit. So check it out because she's very talented, Very talented, and
Thank
definitely
you.
in your gifts. Like I've read her record too, and this is just your path. Like check it
Yeah.
out. I'll put her information in the show notes, and please give her a like and follow because I can't even imagine what your digestion period is gonna blossom you into as we move through it.
I can't wait to see. I'm just going to trust the process, as ugly
Yes.
as it might get.
It seems like the only thing we can do at this point. You know, even when I was at my scariest moments, it was just like trust and faith and love
Hmm.
and it's worked out. Like it's true.
Hmm.
I can't say that that process doesn't work because it's happening. It's happening for both of
Well, and
us.
like I said,
So
I can't say that sometimes I'm like, girl, are you delusional? But I mean, I snap out of it real quick. Like, no, you're not. You're just trusting the process.
yeah.
It might seem like you are a little delusional, but you're not. You're just trusting the process.
Well, sometimes I tell myself when I really feel like I'm losing it, I'm like, okay, you know, there's that saying, I can't remember, it's going to butcher it probably. I don't even know who it's from, but it's like the ones that think they're crazy enough to change the world are the fucking ones that do. And that's
Hmm.
true. Like, look to anyone who's accomplished something organically
Yep.
and they fucking had to just keep persevering. And if you keep holding the line, it works. It's just
The
that
one
people get so scared they don't hold the line and they let it go and end up
the
back where they
one
started.
thing the one thing that you say that always sticks with me is you will never fail at being yourself. And like
Yes.
that literally it's like forefront in my head. Like
Mm,
if there's a moment where I'm like, Rachel, you're really not being authentic right now, like I switch it up real quick because I know that that's not how I'm going to become successful at anything in life.
that's
Relationships,
true.
financial. I'm not going to be successful if I'm not myself. So it
That's
took
so
me a
true.
while to get there. Not that was my digestion period. You know, I had to
Mm,
digest some shit, but we're getting there.
yes, that's so true. And it's honestly like you can't fail at being yourself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like that's one of the things is people are afraid to look at themselves and that's why some people do feel lost because they're like I don't know what's in there and like trust me it's worth it to find out like I've I swear the people that are that would find something shitty inside of themselves would never even have the thought like I should look what's in there. They think they're fucking God's gifts to this planet.
You're
The people
right,
that are like,
right.
"Ooh, I don't know, I can't look. I feel like I'm garbage." Those are the people that need to look because shit, they're gonna find a pot of gold in there. Like
Yeah,
I always notice that the people that should be doing this work are always like, I'm the best. And the people that like are gonna find this beautiful treasure within themselves are like, oh, I'm scared. Like,
yeah.
and it's like, nah,
No,
like I
I
can
mean, I've even said before, like with this whole conversation, I even told you, like, I almost didn't say it because I felt stupid saying it. And I've realized that every time that my brain or my ego or whatever wants to tell me, hey, you sound stupid doing that, then I need to say it because that's where that pot of gold
Mhm.
is.
I
Um,
know. And when you said that to me, I was like, this is fucking mind blowing. We have to record this.
yes. And that's where this, but it all started with, should I even say this? Because I almost feel stupid saying it. And then I've told you before, like when you told me what my gift was and you was telling me I needed to speak, I was like, well, that's a big problem because I've always had this problem with my speech, like how I talk. And I had to do speech therapy when I was little, and I've just always had this like trigger around the way that I speak and the way that I say my words. And there's even people in my life that like play with me, and I don't. They're really it's all on like good fun, but like I think that I've stored some of the things that they've said about the way I say certain
Mm,
words. I think I've stored it in there, and so when you told me I needed to like speak, I was like, oh no, we
bitch,
can't do
no.
that.
That's so funny. And you know, but
But
that's
digest it, and I've gotten rid of the fear. So hey, I'm either gonna sound stupid and say words wrong, or be miserable.
exactly.
It's
And like
exactly
it's
what it is.
it's so subjective too though because like how do you say words wrong, you know, like there's so I mean I get it but I mean like I'm Canadian, I say a lot of words wrong compared to
Yeah.
how they say it in America and it's like frick it's just how you say it. And then honestly I do notice sometimes like people that are a little bit like different so to speak don't realize that what makes them different is actually their magic and then they're like oh I
Yeah.
better like bury that when really it's like no that's the exact part of you that makes you the leader or makes you what you are and what you need to share. And it's like, it's not easy to overcome, but
And
the
it's
process.
not easy, but it can be done. It can be done.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
had a lot of shit surrounding that I needed to digest. But
Mhm. Yeah,
here we are.
exactly. Ah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Rachel. I am
Ew.
so happy with everything that we chatted about. This is exactly what I wanted to share about your journey and your knowledge. So thank you. And I hope that all the listeners follow her, get a session done. You will not regret it.
Yes, come follow. I'm pretty cool, I think.
Yes, definitely. Definitely very cool. All right. Well, thanks, Rachel,
Thank
and we'll see you next
you.
time. Ah, so interesting. Did you have anything else you wanted to share about your journey before I pass it over to you to talk about how people can get in touch with you if they want to experience your magic?
All right. Yeah. So I am Records with Rachel. I do have an Instagram page at Records with Rachel. So if you want to follow me there, if you have any questions about me or what I do, I also have Rachel, Records with Rachel at gmail.com. That's my email address.
Sweet. And I could not recommend Rachel enough. Like even before her journey was like real like to the level it is now, I was like, yeah, you should just do a session for me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
fucking blown away because like how I do it and how she does it is different. And I remember being like, holy fuck, how did you just summarize feelings that I couldn't even name or experiences that I couldn't even name? And she just like gave it a name and she's like, I think this is kind of like where it's coming from. And I was like, the fuck? Like I've spent a lot of time digesting myself and I couldn't even name that shit. So check it out because she's very talented and
Thank
definitely
you.
in your gifts. Like I've read her record too, and this is just your path. Like check it
Yeah.
out. I'll put her information in the show notes and please give her a like and follow because I can't even imagine what your digestion period is gonna blossom you into as we move through it.
I can't wait to see. I'm just going to trust the process, as ugly
Yes.
as it might get.
It seems like the only thing we can do at this point. You know, even when I was at my scariest moments, it was just like trust and faith and love
Mm-hmm.
and it's worked out. Like it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that that process doesn't work because it's happening. It's happening for both of
Well, and
us.
like I said,
So
I can't say that sometimes I'm like, girl, are you delusional? But I mean, I snap out of it real quick. Like, no, you're not. You're just trusting the process.
yeah.
It might seem like you are a little delusional, but you're not. You're just trusting the process.
Well, sometimes I tell myself when I really feel like I'm losing it, I'm like, okay, you know, there's that saying, I can't remember, I was going to butcher it probably. I don't even know who it's from, but it's like the ones that think they're crazy enough to change the world are the fucking ones that do. And that's
Mm-hmm.
true. Like, look to anyone who's accomplished something organically
Yep.
and they fucking had to just keep persevering. And if you keep holding the line, it works. It's just
The
that
one
people get so scared they don't hold the line and they let it go and end up
the
back where they
one
started.
thing the one thing that you say that always sticks with me is you will never fail at being yourself. And
Yes.
like that literally it's like forefront in my head. Like
Mm,
if there's a moment where I'm like, Rachel, you're really not being authentic right now, like I switch it up real quick because I know that that's not how I'm going to become successful at anything in life.
that's
Relationships,
true.
financial. I'm not going to be successful if I'm not myself. So it
That's
took
so
me a
true.
while to get there. Not that was my digestion period. You know, I had
Mm,
to digest some shit, but we're getting there.
yes, that's so true. And it's honestly like you can't fail at being yourself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like that's one of the things is people are afraid to look at themselves and that's why some people do feel lost because they're like I don't know what's in there and like trust me it's worth it to find out like I've I swear the people that would find something shitty inside of themselves would never even have the thought like I should look what's in there. They think they're fucking God's gifts to this planet.
You're
The people
right,
that are like,
right.
"Ooh, I don't know, I can't look. I feel like I'm garbage." Those are the people that need to look because shit, they're gonna find a pot of gold in there. Like
Yeah.
I always notice that the people that should be doing this work are always like, I'm the best. And the people that like are gonna find this beautiful treasure within themselves are like, oh, I'm scared. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, nah,
No,
like I
I
can
mean, I've even said before, like with this whole conversation, I even told you like I almost didn't say it because I felt stupid saying it. And I've realized that every time that my brain or my ego or whatever wants to tell me, hey, you sound stupid doing that, then I need to say it because that's where that pot of gold
Mhm.
is.
I
Um,
know. And when you said that to me, I was like, this is fucking mind blowing. We have to record this.
yes. And that's where this, but it all started with, should I even say this? Because I almost feel stupid saying it. And then I've told you before, like when you told me what my gift was and you was telling me I needed to speak, I was like, well, that's a big problem because I've always had this problem with my speech, like how I talk. And I had to do speech therapy when I was little, and I've just always had this like trigger around the way that I speak and the way that I say my words. And there's even people in my life that like play with me, and I don't. They're really it's all on like good fun, but like I think that I've stored some of the things that they've said about the way I say certain
Mm,
words. I think I've stored it in there, and so when you told me I needed to like speak, I was like, oh no, we
bitch,
can't do
no.
that.
That's so funny. And the
But
best.
digest it and I've gotten rid of the fear. So hey, I'm either gonna sound stupid and say words wrong or be miserable.
Exactly.
That's
And like it's
it.
it's so subjective too though, because like how do you say words wrong? Like there's so I mean, I get it, but I mean, like I'm Canadian, I say a lot of words wrong compared to
Yeah.
how they say it in America. And it's like, frick, it's just how you say it. And then honestly, I do notice sometimes like people that are a little bit like different, so to speak, don't realize that what makes them different is actually their magic. And then they're like, "Ooh, I
Yeah.
better like bury that." When really it's like, no, that's the exact part of you that makes you the leader or makes you what you are and what you need to share. And it's like, it's not easy to overcome, but
And
the process.
it's not easy, but it can be done. It can be done.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
had a lot of shit surrounding that I needed to digest. But
Yeah,
here we are.
exactly. I agree. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Rachel. I am
Ew.
so happy with everything that we chatted about. This is exactly what I wanted to share about your journey and your knowledge. So thank you. And I hope that all the listeners follow her, get a session done. You will not regret it.
Yes, come follow. I'm pretty cool, I think.
Yes, definitely. Definitely very cool. All right. Well, thanks, Rachel.
Thank
And we'll see you next
you.
time.